Hey guys, so this is a trade we did last week on GDOT. This is what I love about earnings season because you just get so many opportunities every day to really play something, whether it's earnings or PR related. So, GDOT's been a $24 stock, right? It must have had a bad PR earnings or something comes out. And so you get this huge gap down, and right off the morning, it flushes down. It kind of comes around here to about 980, 990 or so. And then as typical, right? You're going to get a little bit of a, kind of a reflex bounce after everybody piles into it or is done selling. And so, what ends up happening here is, it kind of pops up to the mid tens, and you can see it starts to crack right back here. And so, essentially, I'm looking at this 10 area right here, right? And I'm thinking, if it can't hold 10, right, this stock is probably going to be a big fader. And so I'm really eyeballing that 10 mark, and then we can see right here, right, the low of the day is 992 or 990, something like that. And so what we do is, right, as soon as this thing starts getting close, right, to the low of the day, we know that this initial dead cat bounce was probably a short squeeze or right, just a dead cat bounce. And so we shorted right here. Nothing big, right? Just 1,000 shares at 990. And so then what we end up doing is, you start playing the flush. And so as is my, my style, as you start flushing down a little bit, I always like to kind of cover half right into the hoopla. And so I cover half at about 947. And then as you kind of keep coming right back down here, then as you start kind of flushing back lower, right, you start to just really make the tank here. Always cover some on that first big spike. You see how you see a candle like this? That's usually a sell spot here, right? Because this is not orderly selling, right? This is a little bit of a short-term parabolic, and so you always want to cover half into that spike. So we cover half at 945, 946. Right, it has a little bit of a bounce, but nothing major, right? It doesn't even go back up above our short price, and so back down into the next flush. That's where we cover the rest of our shares, and so we ended up covering right around 920 at 1050. So just a less than an hour trade, half an hour, and off the bat we're already pretty net positive on this thing. But now that we know that this stock is broken down, we always eyeball it for second entries, right? So you can see what happens is the stock gets flushed, it starts to rebound, and then lo and behold, what starts happening is it just starts rolling over here. And so you see a bounce, and then boom, right? It comes back down, it bounces again. And so as it starts looking like it's going to break down again, these stocks typically will flush end of the day, kind of right back to the low of the day. And if they can crack it, they can really get nasty. And so right back towards the low of the day, we short this thing. We short this thing again at 964 or so, and play for the late day flush. And so that's what you end up getting, right? So as per my style, right, you get this first initial flush break, and so I cover half at 937. You get a one candle spike, which is to be normal, and then a spike back down after that. And I ended up getting a little bit greedy here, and so then I was really going for trying to get this thing to break below 910. It didn't do it, so then when it spiked back up here, I ended up covering it 923, 924 the last half. So we take another 40 cents out of it. So that's the beauty of these earnings places. Once you get one set up in it, just like we did with FSLR today, we went long a couple times and we went short a couple times. Once it's in play, you want to keep it on your list because there's going to be a lot of action in the stock because it's news driven, right? So there's going to be a lot of emotions and squeezes going both ways, and so you can profit from it.